Hello, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining back into episode 3 of the Academy of Tomorrow podcast, where we aim to interview people who can share their personal experiences so that way you and I and everyone can learn from them. And today I'm with Michael and our special guest, Luisa, where she will give a little bit of introduction about herself.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really excited and hope that maybe my story helps other people. So I came to the US from Germany as an international student. And I came to study journalism and public relations and also play volleyball because it is very hard to come to the US without a scholarship or an idea to how to fund the studies here.
And from our initial conversation, you mentioned that you're currently working with Fox 47 News.
Yes.
How's that going?
It has always been my dream to work for a TV channel, so I didn't even think that would happen in my first year after college. So that's kind of crazy that happened, but I always tried to work hard to ultimately achieve that. So I think my work paid off in a sense. Of course, there's a lot of room to grow, but right now I'm very happy that I am there, and I think that I can improve a lot as a reporter and also news anchor at that station and hopefully at other stations in the future.
That's really awesome. And how long have you been into this industry?
So I graduated in May of 2021. So I've only been working as a reporter since November, and
okay.
It's been a very new experience. I mean, I've always knew that is what I wanted to do, because I like writing and I like interviewing people. I want to tell people's stories and also address issues that I see in society or that other people see. It's a job that I know I can change something with, and that's why I like it. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to ask you from the beginning, when you first decided to be an international student, what was the process like and how did you maneuver through the whole process?
The idea came because another girl from my volleyball club in Germany went to the US to study on a scholarship. So that was basically how I got the idea. And I thought, wow, that's perfect because I can combine studying and playing volleyball and also learn English, which is like one of the main things. Like in Germany, they really expect you to know how to speak English. So that was like, wow, that's a perfect chance. And then I needed to contact an agency that helps with volleyball scholarships. Basically, they help get the video out. So like I needed to edit a highlight video of myself. And this agency contacted a lot of different like volleyball coaches in the US trying to get me an offer. And then they help with the whole visa process because there's a lot that goes into the visa process as well, like with going to the embassy and everything and like what you should bring, what you need to say and stuff like that.
Wow, so it's not much like you taking this class or your college will work with you through the whole international process, or so you have to go through an agency?
Knowing how to speak English and knowing the process, I feel like you can do it without an agency. But once you're in the other country, you don't know that you can just contact a university and maybe they would tell you what you need to do.
Gotcha.
I didn't know that there were international student advisors or, like.
Yeah, well, if you haven't been there or like done it, you really wouldn't know. It's great that there are agencies out there who are willing to help you move to your next career or opportunities.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think about American people or American students in terms of how they should approach or how they think of international students?
That's a very interesting question because I think there really shouldn't be any like obstacle to like approach international students. Like we are not any different. We had probably a very similar childhood. Of course, we had different experiences and our countries have a different system, but we're all just normal people and we want to have fun and hang out with people. So like Americans shouldn't be afraid talking to international students and also think, okay, maybe they're feeling lonely or maybe for Thanksgiving, it would be nice. And I had a lot of those good experiences. Like people always invited me to their Thanksgiving. So that's super nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's very, very nice. And that people should think about it and not think, oh, the person is, I don't know if people think that, but the person might be not as intelligent or something just because of their accent or because they can't speak English that well. But, knowing, okay, they can speak, I don't know what language, way better, like
yeah, I can kind of relate to that, where there were a lot of international students when I was studying business back in Penn State, and the one thing that I fear of approaching them is the barrier, that language barrier, that cultural barrier. And sometimes I find I have to push myself to be, hey, it's okay. It's okay. You approach them and ask questions. not that big of a deal.
What goes through your mind? Like, why are
Well,
you
I
scared that they don't understand you?
well, it's one of those things where I'm also native to this country, and so it's just one of the things that if I start speaking English and I don't speak their language, to me, if someone approach me and I don't speak their language, I might be afraid to open up, or I might be afraid that I might sound not right,
Yeah.
or like not like sound dumb, and I don't want to embarrass myself. It's that kind of thing that stopped me from approaching people. But throughout the years, I figured that, if you just approach them kind of like a friend type of thing and not have that thought in your mind, you meet great people.
Yeah, and maybe from an American perspective, then it would be good to think, just be patient and like, the conversation isn't over just because they didn't understand one word, like you can be patient and like it's really possible to understand what they're talking about, if you take some time.
Now, let
Somebody,
me ask you this one question. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What if like someone approach you and you ask them to repeat or you don't understand them as much? Do you think they should yell the word louder or do you think they should kind of speak softly but slowly?
you think yelling is a good option? No.
I mean, like a lot of people where when it comes, they would kind of say it loud. So in their mind, I think that the person can't hear the word right.
Yeah, no. It's
Yeah.
really just speaking a little bit slower or like just saying it a little bit more clearly.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's easy to just swallow a word and also every person speaks different.
Hmm.
So, it's hard sometimes meeting new people because then the person speaks different from what I'm used to hearing. It's normal to like not understand or some people mumble, like
Oh yeah, absolutely.
so,
And one of the things that we also experienced where my mom thought that whenever she would talk to someone, she would use hand gesture. So she
yeah.
would kind of describe this, but she also uses her hands. And I told her, that's pretty smart because we
Yeah.
came here, we kind of know nothing, have to relearn. And so one of the tools we have is our hands, right? And so we can just gesture, okay, I want to do this and things like that. And everyone was really welcoming to that. And she built her friendship based on that too. She speaks kind of broken language, broken English, but she uses her hands to demonstrate what she was talking about.
Yeah, no, that's nice. But the only other thing, like I've talked to some people that on what they also experienced, and I had that once, I think, but that people were like, "What?" Like when I would say something, "What?" and like say what like 100 times, like even if I leave out a word in the sentence, you should kind of be able to like understand, like
Yeah.
it would just be nice if there would be like this acceptance and like just like asking what just seems a little bit ignorant.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think like the language barrier is the biggest thing. And yeah, like you mentioned, I do think people should definitely be more respectful and like more patient, I guess. At least in your case, like I know me personally, like if it were the other way around, I would not be able to speak any German. So I mean, the least we could do is be patient if anyone tries to learn English.
And most people are. I know that everybody kind of experienced that once, that like kind of negative experience, and it's kind of it's discouraging because if you don't understand me, to me it feels like okay, my English is terrible.
Right.
um,
Right.
Do you see a lot of students in Germany who look to be international students or kind of like it's a rare case type of thing?
it's very common for Germans to do like a high school exchange here. I'm sure you guys have met international students like that came in 11th grade. Yeah, but spent high school year in the US. Like that's something that's very common because you learn English in a year. In that case, in Germany, we actually have to repeat the year and study it again. Like it's not like we can just move on in Germany. We still need to study it in Germany. But yeah, I didn't do that at the time because I felt like I was too young. But a lot of people go to abroad after they finish high school, but a lot of people do work and travel. It's not necessarily the study abroad experience. Now I know a few people that did it from Germany, also with volleyball, but before I didn't know anybody else except for the girl that I from my volleyball club. Like it's not very common to because it's a big decision to be like, okay, I might be there for more than 4 years.
I guess you mentioned before where you're really into journalism and being a news reporter. Are those kind of like your two main goals and plans when you decided, okay, so I want to be an international student and this is kind of like my path?
In the beginning, I thought, okay, I definitely want to work at a TV channel, but it's very competitive. In Germany, there's no real way to get into it because, okay, so many people want to get there. So people study journalism, politics, and stuff like that, but like there is no like, oh, this is what you have to do to become a news anchor. I thought maybe if I study in the US and I have my degree, a foreign degree in English, which is like a little bit harder than the degree in your native language. So I thought maybe that would help me get a job in Germany later on. And, I didn't plan before that I would stay another year in the US trying to work here, but then that just kind of happened, because of course I got attached to being here as well. And I met my boyfriend here. So it just happened. Like, it's not like I could plan before, okay, I will stay here for 6 years. It's hard to plan, I think, at our age, especially, and also as international students, it's hard to plan for sure.
Yeah. And life just happens. Things happens in ways that you've never expected to be.
Yes, for sure.
And so like when you first became an international student, moving from Germany to here to the US, what was the hardest part of that journey?
So in the beginning, it was definitely the language because I felt like I couldn't express myself the way I wanted to, and I couldn't show my personality. I felt like I needed to say just what I know how to say. I couldn't make a joke or anything. So like that was a little bit weird, and also a challenge to make friends because of that, I think, because I couldn't just say my opinion. It was a little bit difficult, but I would say after 3 months that's fine. And then of course the language improves after that, but like after 3 months it's like you should
Oh my
be
gosh, I completely feel you too. Because the first time when I came here, the only two words I knew was yes and no. And
oh,
sometimes I wouldn't know how to say them like properly or when to say them. And so thankfully, when I first started in fourth grade, there's this teacher. She was great, and she helped me throughout all that journey. But yeah, I feel you where you're in a new environment, you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, you don't know how to express yourself, kind of this new thing.
yeah, and it's uncomfortable too, and like playing volleyball and like everybody screams all the time. I needed to say the words I didn't even want to I didn't feel comfortable saying, like screaming. Yeah, that was definitely an experience. And then also like you have the conversation in your head, like what you want to say, like the sentence, but then the conversation is already over once you
Right. So your brain's trying to process, trying to translate, double translate, and all of a sudden, oh, the conversation's done.
Yeah. I'm thinking like what other challenges. I mean, I do probably like if you came to your parents with your parents, maybe that was a little bit easier. I don't know. If it's not a big university, like we do need a car, but like
Right.
I'm here, I'm 18 and there's so many things I've never done before. Like I've never bought a car, I've never gotten a car insurance, I've never
So you had to like relearn everything.
yeah, like or you have to learn things so much faster than you would at home, I feel like, or without that much support, because at home I'm sure somebody can explain how to file the taxes, whereas here, you're kind of by yourself. The hardest part to go through a lot of experiences by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and speaking of Texas school, I think schools definitely need to start teaching us like at a young age to how to do it properly. But that's another conversation we have. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Everyone struggles with taxes.
I know it's and then you do it and you still wonder, okay, was it right now? Because I don't know.
Yeah, it's like when you do taxes and you finish, you said, okay, so I finished my taxes, but then, oh crap, is that right?
Yeah. So I think those are like the biggest challenges. And then of course, like if people are listening that are thinking about going abroad, I mean, I think you do need to realize that it's normal to be alone as well, that it's like a challenge to go through, like, because on the weekend sometimes like my roommate wasn't there, like everybody was at home with their parents or like families, so I was alone at the dorms, which was like difficult.
Yeah. And so were there any like cultural shock so to speak when you first became an international student here?
It's not normal in Germany to talk to people that much. We don't do a lot of small talk in Germany, so that's something that
We do a
yeah.
lot here.
Yeah. I knew that Americans would do that, so it wasn't like, oh, a big culture shock, but it's still something that I needed to get used to because, I mean, now with the job, I meet new people every day, so it's good, very good practice.
Oh
Um,
gosh, yeah. What as a reporter too, you travel everywhere and just kind of meet people.
yeah, and talk to them about their life. So like it's always small talk, small talk, you know. Do you remember any culture shock?
I came from Vietnam, and so everyone was so friendly. They were holding hands as friends. But now, when I first came here, you only hold hands when either you're really best friends or you're dating. That's the first thing that I kind of learned. And so, back in Vietnam, guys to guys, they would like kind of hold hands to kind of play, but there's no intimate relationship whatsoever. So that's just one of the things I kind of learned. And the thing about school is that they're more strict than in here. And so when I first came here in fourth grade, it was a huge change. It was a 180 change, and it took me quite a bit to learn everything by myself too. It's quite a culture shock.
So it was stricter in Vietnam.
Yeah, the teachings, the way the school or the classes were formed or structured, you have maybe 10 hours of school and then you go home and that's it. But here is about 8 hours or so. And then you get playtime throughout the day and it's just really different. So what about you, Michael? Have you experienced anything like that when you
I think one of the biggest issues, or not issues, but differences, like Luisa mentioned, was like the transportation. I know in like a lot of countries that I've been to, it's like less focused on like driving and using cars to get around. It's more like public transportation focused. I know in Europe that's a really big thing, but
Yeah.
here it's like exclusively dependent on like the highway and like driving and all that. So that was one of the biggest things I've noticed. We as Americans, we have like a different like culture in terms of like how we express ourselves, how we communicate, like even our slang and the food we eat. So I've always found that to be way different than like Europe or in Asia, at least from my experience. How did you think about the food? I guess like with all the fast food restaurants and all that.
Uh, I honestly, I mean, I like American food, like, and I feel like there's a lot of variety, you know, like it's not like there's only unhealthy food. But in the beginning, what kind of like threw me off was, and I guess it's also because of, I feel like girls or women deal with that more, but like because of all the time, the calories were always mentioned next to the food. And I don't know that really, I was like, oh my God, the salad has over 1,000 calories, like, you know, so that's something, but now I'm just not focusing on it.
when you first joined or first came here as an international student, you mentioned that there's things that you need to learn or get used to and things like that. What has really helped you to get quote unquote used to being an international student here?
So I think what helped me in the beginning a lot is that first of all, my volleyball team didn't have any other. They had some international students, but they like from New Zealand or Australia, so like nobody had a language barrier or anything. So like I think that was good because I was right away like there was no way for me not to speak English, you know, or to escape the situation kind of. And then I also tried to keep pushing myself. Like I worked for a coffee shop on our campus to because I was like, okay, I need to speak more with people, and that was like a helpful way. So I think it's what's really helping is pushing yourself to, you know, get out of your comfort zone. I mean, you already did it by going abroad, so why not even doing more? So I think that's a big thing. And then also asking for help. You know, like I don't feel embarrassed. I even asked again the other day my boss. I was like, okay, how do you fill out the check again? Because in Germany we don't use paper checks. Like nobody fills out a check, you know. And I don't care if somebody thinks that's weird, you know, because I think okay, it's my background, you know, like I never like felt embarrassed about asking like, oh, what does this word mean? Like, sorry, I didn't understand that. So I think that's something we shouldn't be afraid of, like asking, because usually I think people understand like, oh, okay, it might be different in her country or his country. And yeah, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I feel like asking questions is one of those things where even now we're just so shy. Maybe shy is not the right word, but kind of being held back from asking because we don't want to maybe one, embarrass ourselves or like two, make the other person think that we're incompetent or something.
Yeah,
And so I guess asking questions is just one of those ways too that help you and help them clarify either the situations or some challenges that need to be overcome.
for sure. Everybody has an advisor at school, which I think is a good person to talk to, you know, like making sure that the career is on the right track and that you're going to graduate in the time that you want, you know. And before I came to the US, I didn't know that you could double major or anything like that. So like I didn't have a double major, but if I would have known, I think I would have tried, get 2 degrees. Yeah, those are like things that the advisor could tell you. So I think that's something the advisor is a good person to talk to.
So if you were to go back, what other major would you double in?
I mean, maybe because I did a minor in broadcast and cinema arts, so maybe I would try to do double major and have both degrees.
And so does the advisor work with you through all the years as an international student? So they keep in touch with you, things like that?
I mean, the normal academic advisor. So like for journalism, I had an advisor, Of course, we also there's an international student advisor that can also help to answer questions about how to get a driver's license, because even if you have a driver's license from your country, in some states you need to redo your driver's test. So
Okay. Yeah, so it's a little bit different if you going through an agency than your school, right?
I mean, the advisor was at my American school. So like
Yeah.
once I was in the US, my agency didn't help me, with anything.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, like, it's important to ask for help from the academic advisor, because I think everybody has one here, right?
Yeah.
And then there's an international student advisor at every school, at least I think.
Yeah, I think so. When I was studying at Penn State, we did have an international advisor, and they would help us throughout the whole process, kind of like the application process and what you do when you're there and what to expect and things like that.
It's good to ask, and so that's like the main thing.
And so aside from like the cultural barriers and the language barrier, what other things did you see that future international students or someone were interested in become an international student in Germany or any other countries? What would kind of that experience be?
Like any tips or tricks, basically.
For people that want to come to the US?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, basically, first, not to pressure yourself, because friendships take a while. Like the friends that we have at home, they developed over years, so we cannot expect that we will have the same kind of relationships like after a few months, so that's kind of something that's tough, because you think, okay, I will make new friends, because you go to the US being you're open to new friends, but like it can be hard to make close friends that quickly, and that's just something to be aware of. I think that could help to like just be ready.
Do you think making friends also lower the anxiety level of, oh, I'm new into this country and I know this group of friends, and so that would kind of help me be less afraid?
You mean if it would help to know people already?
Yeah, like make a couple of friends, 2 or 3 friends, so that way you not only improving the way that you speak, and you can learn from them too.
It's good to make friends with other internationals because you can relate to them. Like most of my closest friends are also internationals, so like it's way easier to relate to them, I guess, because we had a lot of the same experiences, we kind of know what the other person is going through. Like I know, oh, maybe the other person misses her family, which is maybe not something the American friend would think about. Are they thinking about me missing my family, But since I'm experiencing it, I can talk to them about their experience and stuff. I think it is important to also make American connections, at least, because there's no way to learn English. For me, there would not be no way if I would just hang out with another German person, So I think it's important to just force yourself to like make those connections, but not pressure yourself to have deep friendships, like not have the expectation, oh, I need to make friends and they need to be as good as the friends I have in Germany or somewhere else.
Yeah, and I feel like I can somewhat relate because I do have a friend, and his sister, she actually became an international student, and she was here for maybe about 4 years now. So now she's heading to college, and when she came here, luckily his mom knew my aunt. So there's like that kind of connection for a little bit. But again, she was having difficulty, learning how to drive, and the language barrier was there, and she just had to kind of relearn this whole culture of what it's like to be a student in America, so to speak. And so now she's in college, and even with that, now she's far away, and kind of I kind of feel her struggle, because every time I visit, she would kind of seem sad because she didn't have anyone to connect her with. And so she said that she's missing her family a lot, and she misses her brother. So I knew that feeling. So when you mentioned it, and I just kind of clicked in and said, oh, okay, so
yeah,
that's what the experience is like.
Yeah, I mean, I think in that case, it's good to connect with other international students, because then, it's kind of like you will be with somebody that understands, or like really understands. Other than that, I think it's also important to, you came here for a reason, probably, like, I came here to advance my career, so I always try to do everything possible to do it, and not like, let the language stop me from it, because I know what I'm capable of in German, so why should I doubt myself that that will not be possible in English eventually?
Yeah.
I mean, like internships and stuff, okay? Because why not try, and
Absolutely.
and we shouldn't get discouraged from being denied, and all this stuff. Like, I really believe that if we work for something, then we will achieve it eventually.
Yeah, it's like
Totally
it's
agree.
yeah, you never know until you try.
That's always a good mindset to have. But that actually brings me to like a interesting topic. You mentioned like internships and like opportunities. And so my question is, what do you think about opportunities for international students in the US? Like what were your experiences like with internships and all that? And how do you think about opportunities for international students in general?
Yeah, I think internships was really not a problem at all. Like in the beginning, I wasn't confident enough to do internships off campus. And yeah, I think my English wasn't good enough for that yet. So I, did internships on campus. So for example, in the athletic department, I took pictures for them, videos, and wrote articles for them, like, so that was also helpful for my career, because I could find out, okay, sports journalism isn't really what I want to do, that was very helpful. As an international student, we can only work on campus while we study. Yeah, with internships, we can get the opportunity to do them off campus, but we need to apply for like a certain type of authorization. And, all these things always sound like a big challenge, but for the internships, like, it's not a big deal. Like, we should try to have the experience to have an internship off campus, and, go through this application process as well with other like real companies, because then it will be easier afterwards, because how are we finding jobs if we only do internships on campus, so I think that really helped, like, to push myself and do that. And I think there are a lot of opportunities. I don't think people would turn an international student down for an internship, just because they're an international student. Internships are always important, I think. Look, I never did an internship for a TV channel before, but I did so many other internships in the beginning of my OPT, which is the first year, like it's a 1-year work authorization after studying here as an international student. I started freelancing as well, and like all these things, like always trying to find something that would help me with my career, I think is what got me the job, so.
And I think getting like internships and jobs are really hard for international students, because I think there are like laws or something with like the visas, right?
Yeah, like international students always need to make sure that they are following all the rules, so the international student advisor is like a good point for help for that. But yeah, for internships, it's really not that hard, and it's also not that difficult to get the 1-year work authorization.
Sounds good. And to piggyback on the working with the companies and stuff like that, what was the experience like when you kind of approach or get into Fox 47 News? How was that like?
Really a year ago, when I applied for all the jobs, right? Because I was going to graduate in May, and that was really tough. Like, there were a lot of, like, I applied for over 60 jobs, and
Wow.
I mean, and a lot of jobs, you can fill out online applications, but of course it took time. But there were a lot of jobs, like most of them I didn't get a response, or it just showed like, oh, no, you're no longer being considered,
Oh, those kind of emails. Oh.
Yeah, but I think it's something that everybody goes through. It's not because we're international students, right? I hope you.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't.
everyone goes through it. There's like this ATS says something, and it
Yeah.
just I feel like personally they set up to 99% of the time to just kind of throw out all the resumes, but
Yeah, so like that's why I don't know. It's really hard to get a job, and I think we should not just get discouraged. And already we should know that there will probably be a lot of no's before we get, and all we need is one yes, right? That's what one professor always said. Like, we only need one yes. So
absolutely. And that yes can project you to a whole different career.
yeah, and then actually, because you asked how like I got to my job and stuff, and it did all kind of work out because I connected with people. Like, I connected with a professor, which helped me meet the person I did my internship with. And because of the internship, I got my first job at a video production company, and then working for the video production company, I, connected with somebody else who then also like kind of he recommended applying for Fox 47, and he like really was very supportive of me doing it, and that was kind of what pushed me to do it. And then also I think helped me get it,
Okay. And what would kind of like the tips and tricks for if someone were to be, wanting to go into journalism or the same career path as you, what would kind of your advice be for them?
I do notice that all the people I work with, they had an internship in TV before, like as a reporter in the US, like at least like an internship like that. So I would recommend people really try that if that's the career they want, because it will really help them get the job. And then also prepare a demo reel, which is a video of, your abilities as a reporter or whatever position you apply for. That's like also as a producer, as a director, or editor. For all these positions, you always need a highlight video of yourself, which is not something I knew before.
And so is the demo reel kind of like basically a highlight film of you?
Yes. So as an editor, video editor, it would only be the video, right? Only edit it. But as a reporter, it would be me reporting multiple stories. And then
Oh, okay.
First of all, I wanted to really point out that connections are not a bad thing. And because I feel like sometimes, even I sometimes feel like, okay, maybe I just got this and this opportunity because of this and this person, but also I did all the work to get there as well,
Yeah. I mean, connections are great.
Yeah, but I think sometimes people can look at it in a bad way.
Yeah, I think there was a conversation somewhere that I either read or heard where companies were choosing between two people. One person has the experience, the other person had connections, and the person that had connection actually got the job. But then down the road, the companies figured out that the person knew or know less than the other person. And so it was kind of that imbalance of choosing, okay, so do I choose someone that has a lot of connection with this company, or do I go with someone who maybe has less but has the experience and the potential to do the job well?
Yeah, but I mean, it's sad, right? That it seems like there needs to be a connection, but that's why I think it's better to like set yourself up for the best way possible and get as much experience as you can, and also, connect with people, ask people for advice. Like I would never say like, oh, can you help me get the job? Like no, but it's always like the thing about like asking for advice, and then maybe they help you, maybe they don't,
Yeah, you never know until you reach out. And so like if someone was interested in being interested in being a news supporter, they could reach out to you, for instance, and you actually tell them, okay, so this is what I went through, or this is how I did it. And it gives them a chance to see kind of like the POV or the point of view of the path or the career, the journey.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say, I think it's also important to be confident about the dream. It's like, oh, I want to be, or like, let's go with my example. Okay, I want to be a news anchor, okay? But like, if I say that in a class, the professor is asking and my English is very broken, and I say, oh, I want to be a news anchor, like that's kind of can sound weird, right? But I think we should still be confident and say it. Like, you're not going to say, oh, I'm definitely going to be a news anchor, but I think it's important to say that this is my goal. Because if I don't believe that it's going to happen, like who's going to believe in it, And then
exactly.
I also think that can open doors, because people actually know that. Because if you never tell anybody that, because you're kind of embarrassed about it, or it's too big of a dream, because like becoming a professional soccer player, like that's something, or football player, that's something a lot of people want, but like,
I mean, you gotta have some goals and dreams down the line, right? That kind of goals and dreams will shift the way that you go, even though you're gonna experience here and there, but at the end, you know where you want it to be.
Yeah, and like, of course, like I was always open to other things that could happen, maybe one day I will represent a company and not work for the news, A lot of things can happen, but I think it's important, if there's a dream that we want to achieve, then to also be confident that, like, admitting.
So if you have this big goals, it's good to kind of share this thing that I also read, that if you continue to share that dream, though, it can backfire in a way where your mental state will make you think that, okay, so I've achieved this. When you say, For instance, I'm going to use this cliche example where everyone wants to own their own business. Okay. So if you keep going around and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to open my business, things like that, you keep saying that, then your mind will create this thought of you've already done it.
I mean, isn't that manifesting?
Yeah. And then like, I guess from the reading where, okay, it's good to have that goals, but I guess don't overshare it in a way.
But what I mean is I never said, oh, I will be a news anchor in the US. I never said that. I always said like, well, I would really like to be a news presenter, or like I would really like to work for the news on TV.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that will happen here or in Germany, you know. I always said like that. But I just mean that it's, I think, important to let other people know what it is. I agree with you that it's not good to say like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a millionaire. Like, no.
I mean, everyone has like have to have a dream of something, right? To be whatever they want to be.
But I think it's wrong to say that things are happening for sure, because we don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. What would be, I guess, the worst advice you would give someone?
The worst?
Yeah.
It would be the worst to just sit in the room and not
Just shut yourself off.
Yeah, and like not live the experience, you know, because I do think it can be lonely sometimes, really, as I said before. Actually, I gave some like English tutoring classes to other international students, like when I was studying at Madonna University, and I don't know, I felt like some of them were kind of isolated maybe, and that's why their English wasn't getting that much better. And sad, because I don't think that's the experience they wanted, you know. You shouldn't come to the US or go to another country to study if you are not going to go out of your comfort zone to talk to people.
You're already going there, right? And so might as well open yourself out to the country and then explore, see what's out there, right?
Yeah, it's okay, you know, if that's not the right thing. Like, it's not failure to leave and go back home after a few months or after a year or 2 years. You didn't fail. It's still awesome that you had the courage to go abroad. You probably still learned English.
Kudos to all the international students out there stepping out that comfort zone, going to a different country, learning things. It's challenging.
Yeah, I agree. It's just tough. It's not easy to stay and be without family and move to different apartments and all of that.
Yeah, it definitely takes courage.
And so are there like any questions that I haven't asked or that you would like the audience to know that, you know, they can also learn from your experience?
I think we really covered all the advice I can give. Of course, you know, if there are people that are interested in working in this field, really anybody could contact me, because I always like to help people, you know, give advice if they're struggling with their university and need to switch schools or transfer.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if you provide us with the information, kind of like your social things, like your social platforms, channels, I'll link them down to the description, and people can actually contact you and say, hey, I heard that you're an international student here and things like that. I wanted to reach out and see if we can connect.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, there's no problem at all. Even if I end up being back in Germany, then
hopefully not, because you've been great. You've been great here. You know, your energy is great, and I'm really thankful that you took the time out today to join us on this episode, third episode of the podcast, and hopefully you'll come back for many more down in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. No, I really appreciate that, and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, that's wrapped up for episode 3 here at Academy of Tomorrow podcast. And if anything, I'll link Luisa social channels down in the description below. You guys can go check her out, ask questions and things like that, connect with her. Amazing person, and just want to say thank you again for hopping in to this session, and hopefully see you guys at the next episode 4. Thank you, everyone.